The first thing that we have to ask ourselves when resizing an image is, what size do we actually have the image at? And so the easiest way for us to figure that out, and really everything that we need to know, is going to be included in the image size dialog box. And to get there in Photoshop, we go to Image, the Image menu, and then Image Size, or Command Control I. So we come up with the image size dialog box, and it's pretty straightforward, but there are some distinct things about it that we need to know. First thing is, with all Photoshop dialog boxes, there's a preview window, and the preview window will allow you to click at different places within the scene to see exactly how the settings that you have will affect that portion of the photograph. Now, you can zoom in, or you can zoom out. Typically, I leave that at 100%. I've always wished that this window could get a little bit bigger, and so with the new version of CC, they have finally allowed it to get a little bit bigger. And all you do to do that is you just drag here at the corner, and you can resize that however you want. So after we figure out the image size preview, the next thing over here, just like all windows in Photoshop, it goes top to bottom. So the next thing we see is the image size, 63.3 megabytes. And then we have dimension at 5,760 pixels by 3,840 pixels. Now, as you know, because of the videos that you've been watching, a pixel is what's known as a picture element. And the picture element is basically the smallest component within a digital image. Then we have a Fit2, and the Fit2, basically, these load presets that are standard throughout the industry, such as an 8x10, 11x14, etc. Now, typically, I just leave this as original size. Mostly, I don't want to touch the Fit2. The next thing that we have is we have the width and we have the height. And you see that the width is now 19.2 inches by 12.8 inches. And then you see here with the little chain link that they are linked together. We can click that off, and now they're not linked together. Click that back on, and they are linked together. Sometimes we might want to resize just by the pixels. So now we have the pixel dimensions matching. Or we might want to use millimeters, centimeters, etc. There are advantages to using a metric system, but the advantages have to do later with simplicity of math when matting and framing. But typically, because we're in America, I would say stick with the old imperial system. The next thing down, we have the resolution. Resolution, we have 3 different resolutions that we need to be aware of in photography. The first resolution is 72 dpi or ppi. If it is pixels, if it is a pixel base like the image here, it should be said as ppi, pixels per inch. If it's a print, it should be said as dpi, which is dots per inch. So 72 pixels per inch is a standard screen resolution for web and different screen devices that we have. In fact, most screen devices display their images somewhere in the range of 72 to 96 ppi. Obviously, the more advanced screens will display at a higher resolution. The next resolution we need to be aware of is 150. And that is typically what newspapers print at. In general, you probably won't need to know 150 as a resolution, but it's just a good thing to sort of know where they print at. The final resolution, which is pretty much industry standard for everybody else, is 300 pixels per inch. And that's what we print at on our Epson printers that we'll be using in class. So I typically keep my resolution at 300 ppi. Because I'm printing on inkjet printers. And then finally, we have the resample. If we have the resample checked on, it will allow me to change the width and height independently of the resolution if it's checked. If it's checked on, it allows me to change it independently from the resolution. If it's checked off, I have to, those are all linked together. And so, for instance, if I change the resolution to 72, now you can see that my image size is now 80 inches by 53 inches. Let's change that back to 300 and click this back on so that I can now resample the image. And if I'm going to resample, I have several options to do that with. I typically leave the resampling at either enlargement, preserve detail, enlargement, bicubic smoother, right? So those sort of tell you what they protect. If you have a lot of gradients, you're going to want to do smoother. If you have a lot of details, such as in this image, I would want to do preserve details. But I'm taking this down, so I need to make it smaller. So I would want to use bicubic reduction, bicubic sharper, because that means I'm going to downsample. So I can go ahead and click that since I'm taking this to an 8.5 by 11 or smaller than that. So as I have the paper that I'm going to be printing on today is going to be an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. And as you can see that this is much larger. It's 19 by 12 basically. And so that won't fit onto an 8.5 by 11. So I need to be able to resize my image downsize, to get it to an 8 by 10 or an 8.5 by 11. Because we want to take it down so it fits within an 8.5 by 11, that means that we need to leave a little border all the way around so that our printer has something to grip the edges of, so it'll roll through very smoothly. So we want to change this to 10.5, which is 10.5 inches, which will give us a ½ inch on the top and the bottom, or well, the top and the bottom of this print, so the sides of the paper, it'll give me a ½ inch on. And then that also allows us to have a 7-inch print, so it'll be 1.25 inches on the top and the bottom as it's centered. So pretty much that's it. And we can break this out into 4 simple steps. And I'm going to reset the dialog by holding the Option key down. And I'll reset the dialog just so everything is back to how it originally came in. The 4 simple steps that we do to check the image or to change the image size can be stated as such. First, check resample off. Second, change the resolution to 300 if it's not changed already. So if, let's just say this were 72. I would check the resample off, highlight this, change it to 300. That's step 2. Step 3, turn the resampling back on. And step 4, resize pixels to desired dimensions. So in this case, 10.5. Click OK, and you'll see that it's now going to change the size of my image. So I'm going to save that out, Command-Shift-S, or File Save As. I'm going to also give this a label, give this an additional label, 10*5 by 7. That way I will know that this is a 10.5 by 7-inch document. Hit Save. Okay, and that's it. Let me know if you have questions.